Good evening. I don't know where you are in the world. It's Louisa Tanner, also known as, Louisa Tanner Munson. Sorry, Carl. Oh, I didn't put my wedding ring back on.
That's why this is happening. I knew that was a terrible thing that happened earlier on today. Oh, it'll be fine, she said. And now she's calling herself by her maiden name.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
How it starts.
It is. The slippery slope.
Good evening, everyone, wherever you are, wherever you're joining us from. Please let us know. We've got a bit of a cracker tonight, I think, because not only are you joined by us, woohoo, but we've got Robert Jardine joining us, who Carl hasn't met yet, but I've met twice.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to it.
Yeah, he's a great guy. So yeah, as we're warming up, how about you let us know how you're feeling? I'm asking, like, how are you feeling deep inside? And the reason for that is because Carl was literally just doing a meditation just before I hit the go live button.
I'm posting it up now. to the YouTube channel. It was a quick pause, and I realized I hadn't done it today. So everything got mixed up, but in a good way, I think. So I'm actually taking a photo. The cover photo is a photo of us doing this now. And it's simply in the moments that we had to connect with being in the body and remembering you've got a body and breathing, excuse me, and coughing and feeling the breath coming in and out of the body. And, the reason we're talking about this, of course, is this used to be spiritual Portugal, which we just want to be known as Feel Good Portugal now, right? And it's really crossing the bridges between, why do we have these two worlds of spiritual and normal when really any decent teaching or spiritual discipline would have integration go on, wouldn't it? Embodiment. And so Feel Good Portugal it is at 10 o'clock on a Saturday evening. And where's my graphic gone where I was explaining the Venn diagram, because you pulled me up on it last week.
No, we've got loads of people. Before we go, get started, you've changed the branding, you cheeky sausage.
Because I want to show this. I want to show this picture of Feel Good Portugal. There is. That's our demographic graphic.
Looks like a butt cheek.
I know it does look. It and it's kind of Freud would have an absolute field day with this, with what's going on in my mind designing this. But it should be three circles. It should be three circles.
This is how people keep themselves amused on a Saturday night if they stay in. Is that right?
Well, that's right. But it's for people who don't go out anymore on Saturday night. We've got used to not going out, either because of age or because of the pandemic. And those then who are still awake at this time, which isn't everybody. But then a third, people who want to feel good, because it's occurred to me that some people don't even see that as an option anymore. The world in so many ways in pandemic times. What should we be on actually, love, here? Should it be enlightened conversations, feel good conversations?
Feel good conversations.
Okay, so we'll get the proper branding back. There you go. That's what you wanted, isn't it?
That's a bit better.
Yeah, we can forget, can't we? Sorry, no, let me just rant on a little bit longer. I know you try and move me on. She does this. I start getting into my stride. Let's say hello to a few people. So let's put it to the people. Who wants to say hi and who wants to let me rant on? Okay, let's say hello to everybody. Go on, love. You do it.
Well, I do want to also put another thing. Do we look better like this or like this? What do you prefer? Panned in or panned out? Let us know. I'm going to let you decide. It's almost like a choose your own adventure book. Anyway, let's have a few hellos. The first one that came in literally as we opened was Marie Bridge from Rhode Island. So let's see how many countries we make it to today. We've got Wolfgang in Lisbon. Hey, I'm guessing that's the two of you there. So a big warm welcome to you guys. We've got Jim White. Boa noite. How you doing?
Jim.
Carl said that you're sending us a book. Is that your book that you're FedExing over to us?
Yeah, I have had a message. I had a Portuguese message from FedEx, unfortunately. So there's some calling and customs clearing to do. But Jim, it's in the country. I'm getting you mixed up with our dear friend Jeff, who we had a lovely session with a couple of weeks ago, right? But Jim, I think it's in the country now. It just needs me to make the phone call. And obviously, I'm a little bit afraid. the message came through in Portuguese. I got a little bit of extra work to do to get it from FedEx's hands into my book. We're really looking forward to reading your book and perhaps having you on the Feel Good Portugal Saturday night show. It'd be lovely to talk to you.
Definitely,
So
that sounds
cheers,
great.
Jim. Yeah.
And in fact, the trauma of getting mail and receiving mail here could actually be the topic of one of your shows in the morning.
Oh, it has been. It really has been. Yeah.
So we've got Andrea saying boa noite to us. Well, I'm guessing you're in Portugal, but I'm wondering where you're from, Andrea, because Andrea Hogan. Where?
Well, Andrea and Ton have just arrived in Portugal in this last week.
Australia, like Hogan sounds Australian.
She is American, I believe, originally, and come in via the Netherlands and showed us an amazing picture of her doing a yoga asana, standing on her head on a paddleboard. On a Portuguese lake. That is feel-good material, I would say. Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Incredible.
Yeah, it was really good.
As they say over here. I probably pronounced that wrong as well. We got Fiona and Simon. Hello, my lovelies.
Yes.
And we've got who else? We've got Jennifer, Kirsten. How do I pronounce that, Carl? Let us know. I don't want to get your name wrong.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for putting me on the spot. I'll do the same to you a little bit later on in the show when I see a name I can't pronounce as well.
I'm guessing that you know all these guys, from your morning show.
I'm going to go Giseka. Jennifer Giseka we're going to go for at the moment.
It's a really lovely name, isn't it? Like you've got
it is beautiful,
Jennifer, and you've got the two sounds. You guys are working late? Yes, we are. Actually, we've been working together all day, haven't we? We've been very sort of unglamorously doing gardening and stuff like that, but it's been really nice. We have to work late because we've got to try and get the kids to bed, and they're actually all just watching a film at the moment.
Well, I'm on standby, aren't I? Ready to go, leaving you in the right position to talk to Robert when he arrives. But I did want to say about this feel good thing, and the reason for being here on a Saturday night. We have the Good Morning Portugal show, which I think is pretty positive and high spirited and a lovely community. And this has got a slight sort of spiritual overtone. A top note or bottom note or whatever, however you might. But all right, well, let's call it holistic. Let's call it a holistic view. And this is about, with so much fear in the world, it's about raising the love level basically and reducing. If you've got two volume controls, we're turning the love level up and we're bringing the fear level down if we possibly can tonight on the show. That's what it's about. And I think this is not a concept that's easy to find in we're not in the media really, but you know what I mean, in the area of people sharing information and putting messages out publicly. I don't think that exists so much. I'm not saying we've got the exclusive on it, but I think we can. I certainly want us to be pointed in that direction of turning up the love, turning down the fear on a Saturday night from 10 o'clock.
Yeah, and I really think our guest today, Robert Jardine, is actually very good for that, because I don't know if any of you have actually watched the interviews that I've done with him. I've interviewed him twice about German new medicine, and literally, I mean, could you imagine what it would be like if you actually knew how your body worked and that your body was simple, like understanding your body was as simple as understanding a brain scan. According to German new medicine, which Robert Jardine is going to share with us, there is an actual code that is like fail safe. And, like you can see illness in a brain scan. And in fact, you don't always need to have the brain scan. The brain scan is the thing that helps you to diagnose when it's likely to happen, because you can see illness coming. But he knows a lot about German new medicine, and he's been sharing it with me over the last couple of weeks, answering questions from people and giving advice. But it's so powerful that I've cured something in myself that I've had since I was about 15. And it completely disappeared within about 3 days of me learning about it. It's so powerful. So, that's why I brought him on, and I'm really excited. So if you've got any questions, then, in particular about symptoms that you might be experiencing, then just drop them into the chat box. So we've got Cindy B joining us from the States. When are you coming over to Portugal, Cindy?
She's to and fro. She'll be back soon. She'll be back soon. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. Got got a nice happy smile from Andrea. Jeff
Well, look,
Jackson.
here's the picture. Here's the picture.
Oh my goodness.
There. How about that?
That's incredible.
Isn't it just? Isn't it just?
And where in
Fantastic.
Portugal is that?
Abarajé, up in the north, isn't it? We did discuss it on the morning show, but it escapes my mind right now. I don't know if Robert's got anything for helping people to develop their memory as well tonight. It could be quite useful. But,
let's ask him.
Yeah, but Andrew, I'm sure Andrew and Tom will certainly put that in the comments. The other thing I want to talk about tonight in the second hour.
There.
I look pretty good, don't I? I've let myself go a bit since I had that photo taken with the Hoff a few years ago. Victoria Benson's in there, Jerry's in there, of course, and we're going to talk about the Growing Old Disgracefully program that we're going to start on Monday. So we'll have a bit of a laugh talking about that later on, and the whole business of aging, and maybe a little bit about the little meditation course I've been running all week. If people want to do that, I know Cindy B. It was so lovely to get your message, Cindy, about how it was just the thing for you by the sound of it, and it was a nice prompt and reminder to go into yourself and find a bit of stillness. So thank you for indulging me. I really appreciate it, and maybe we'll talk about that in the second hour. But lots of lovely comments. Look,
yeah, I'm just like trying to scroll down right now. So a few more hellos. I mean, this is actually going down quite a bit, isn't it? So Mac 007 Bonoit from Salema, is that how you pronounce it? Is that in Portugal?
In New Zealand, as I recall.
Oh right, that's
yeah.
cool.
Unless Mac 007's on the move. I think it was New Zealand we last saw Mac.
Wow, incredible. Right, let's see. Oh yeah, we're getting loads of comments. I better speed this up. So Victoria's saying pan out. Someone else is saying pan in.
Yeah, that's what happens. It's like Brexit. It's 48-52. It's what happens.
Just being rant on a bit, mate. What else have we got here?
Yes, thank you.
Lovely. Branding. Yes, that's true, Victoria. Yes, that's really spot on. Colin Ross Jones is in. Okay.
Yes.
Hey.
Very good. In out. Shake it all about. Now there's another.
Right. Okay.
Oh, a pan in, right? I see. Now, there's something else that you'll not be used to. I'm not rubbing it in, but when you get over 10 people watching your videos, it can be quite exciting. And this happens. Marty P has sent us a super sticker. He's bought us a nice cup of. He's bought us a cup of green tea. How about that, Marty?
Nice.
Thank you so much,
Marty.
Really appreciate it. That's lovely.
You're right, Carl. I've never experienced that. I'm lucky enough if I get more than like 5 people listening. Oh, look, my bottle's gone. Ooh.
Oh, green screen action.
Well, that's nice, isn't it? So we've got a thank you for the show. Much needed these days from Marty. Thank you so much.
Cheers, Marty. Yeah, absolutely.
Cheers. Mike Abel is saying, Bonoit from Calgary, Canada. Finally can watch you live. It's only 3 p.m. here. Oh, isn't that wonderful? Maybe this time is working for a few people. So it's good morning from Hervey Bay in Queensland, Australia, from Silvana. Andrea is in Laudosa, Portugal. I don't know where that is, but it looks rather good. Where are we? I'm losing it actually with all these. I normally slack you off for this, don't I?
Yeah, you do. I'll just leave you to it. There you go.
We've got Marty is coming to us from Alaska. Wow.
Yeah.
We're all over the place today. And we've got Catherine just down the road. Hi, Louisa and Carl. I'm tired and I'm usually in bed by 9, up at 7 a.m. with 4 a.m. meditation in between. Wowzers. What? You go, girl.
Why don't you just do it at 2 minutes to 10 like me, Kate? That's what I've just published. But so lovely that you're here. How many people meditate here? Because what's interesting, when we were doing Spiritual Portugal, now Feel Good Portugal, we discovered that so many more people are kind of new agey, spiritual, mind, body, spirit, holistic than we originally imagined, because it is quite a private matter in some ways. But arguably, you could say now's the time for people to come out of the closet a bit and, be their full spectrum self rather than just their mental self or their worldly self or their worldly dimension. So how many people here are meditators, have done or do meditation? It'd be interesting to know. That's a little pause there for you to come in.
Oh, I'm not very good at meditating, but I'm doing, I do regularly just do the like breath work that I've learned from Jeff. In fact, I need to post that video. I've got a lovely little, I think 20-minute video tops, and it's got a 5-minute, like breathing reset, and it takes you through it. And literally at the end, all you need to do is just do these 5 minutes, and it kind of soaks you in serotonin. It starts with a quick 4-second in breath, and then a long out breath for 8 seconds. And there's a couple of other things you do, and it just totally chills you out. It's reminded me of, times in the past when I've got myself a little bit stoned, had a bit too much CBD oil, and right, Jennifer is saying her name is German. I still don't know how to pronounce that.
It's there phonetically, Gizaki.
Yeah, but if it's actually phonetic, it could. I mean, is it phonetic?
I'm sure. I'm going to go with Gizaki.
Okay.
Okay, and see how that goes.
We've got Mark Norfolk joining us. Hey, Mark. Nice to see you. Douglas Hughes.
Dougie.
Are you in the broom cupboard? You could.
Well, actually, I'm in the dining room. I'm hoping that the sound is better because I've got a clip-on mic. But what I'm aware of, it looks like a 1970s passport booth, doesn't it? Like,
it does.
And then the chair. So it doesn't look a bit like a passport booth. And thank you, Don. Don's given me some instruction to pan up a bit, so I think we've got that right now. It's probably a bit annoying. We look like one of those Swiss barometers, where the lady comes out if it's going to be a hot day, and the man comes back. Do you know those things? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember those things.
Yeah.
Are we trying to get our heads back the same size? Because actually, that would be a lie, because your head's much bigger than mine.
My head is, I think, in real life, my head is twice the size of yours. But this is quite a good way of balancing up the balancing it out for the screen. So not in the broom cupboard.
When our children were born, your mum checked them out and said, "Oh yeah, that's a Munson Barnet, isn't it? That's a Munson head." As if it wouldn't be a Munson head.
The capacious forehead, the telltale sign. Oh, thanks, Maxine, for that. And yeah, cheers, Jim, for your instructions on that. We'll get the book. We will get the book. Yeah. I think you're showing your intention. I think you're showing with the intention to be positive in a community goes a long way to help folks feel better. Thank you. Cheers, Jim. Yeah, it's important. It's important to us. It's important to me personally to feel good and find the beauty in the moment, which, let's face it, isn't always possible. Life's not always like that, is it? But we can forget. And that's why I think it's really important that Robert's here tonight as well, to give us another view on how health can be. I mean, from what I've heard, it simplifies things. It takes things back to kind of common sense. And that we in many ways, we seem to be quite a long way from common sense and immersed in a lot of fear when it comes to our health. And what I've heard so far, your enthusiasm about it, Mrs. M, and just hearing Robert speak when I get the chance, it just cuts right through. It's those, it's wisdom, basically. When you hear wisdom because it hits you in the heart, or it gets you on a number of levels. And that's exactly what I hope how you're going to feel about it tonight when you hear this, or certainly hear a very interesting conversation with a new perspective on health. Anyway,
well, it's based on biological rules, and if you look at how things are for mammals. And like biological conflicts that mammals go through, what we've kind of forgotten about is that we go through biological conflicts too. So, for instance, we talk about fight and flight, and we accept that fight and flight is a real conflict or a real sort of biological thing that we go through. But some of the things that we don't realize that we also still have is a biological need to protect our territories. And we have a biological need, all these different biological needs, and we've kind of forgotten about them because, in our societies, there's so much emphasis put on being a good egg and putting up with stuff, and it's kind of passive aggressive. We're not encouraged to let things out or discuss things, and we've lost the tools, I think, to get on with each other. And so because we've lost the tools of how to get on with each other, we're trying to negotiate our way as biological beings whilst pretending not to be biological, whilst pretending we're like a cut above the animal kingdom, when in fact we're really not. And this takes it right back to the animal kingdom and the common sense. Like if you look at animals, they don't get ill. They only get ill if they're animals that live with humans, that are fed by humans. I mean, the irony is really strong. Like if an animal gets ill, it's because it's been poisoned or because it's had its territory
killed by another animal. Yeah, by another animal.
Yeah. So like they die of natural causes. They don't die of things other than interference by humans. And so what German New Medicine does, in my mind, is it teaches you the 5 biological laws that all life is managed by.
Yeah.
And it's really, really simple. And then you're able to look at all the symptoms, and the symptoms correspond to a biological conflict. So one of the things I was going through was a continuous cystitis on and off pretty much since I was 15. Like I'd have times when it would flare up and I would go to the doctors, and sometimes they'd find an infection, sometimes they wouldn't. And it was always really hit and miss. And I spent a lot of my 20s, at least once a month on antibiotics, which, you know, is a terrible idea. It's a really bad idea. In fact, at one point, because it was so desperate, my doctor said that I needed to be on a low dose, permanent low dose of antibiotics for the rest of my life. And then just from talking, or actually I didn't even talk with Robert Jardine. I saw him on another show. He's been on quite a few different channels recently, and I saw him and I listened to it and thought, wow, this is awesome. I ordered a book from Amazon. It was a tiny book, only like 19 pages or so. And the simplicity of it allowed me to cure it. It's incredible. And, you know, so cystitis, it's about marking your territory. So once I realized I was going through a territory conflict, you know, or trying to mark, you know, like dogs, you know, I mean, I'm not like squatting down, and maybe that would have been better if, you know, I was able to squat when I was at school and like pee over all the desks and things, you know, but there was a territorial conflict going on for me, which I couldn't resolve because we didn't have that. And is saying our cat always demonstrates it's vastly superior to me. I was just wondering if he whips that in really quickly and said, you know, his cat's marking everywhere as well.
Oh, I see. No, I don't think so. I just think there's that saying. Is it Gerald Durrell? You know, if humans were as good at being humans as animals were as good as they are being animals, you know, we'd be a lot better off. And that's that nod in the direction of the animal kingdom, isn't it? That we're going to take a little trip down tonight. So very quickly, let's just say all the hellos and catch up on the comments, and then we'll go to Robert, who's joined us in the green room, limbering up in the green room as we speak. Cindy B is going to be back in December. Can't wait to meet you in person. Cindy B, of course, the hostess of our living room on the forum, especially for solos traveling. Well, for everybody, but I mean, you know, you're in that ever-growing niche, Cindy, aren't you, of solos traveling Portugal, and that's a little bit of a support network should people need it. That Barajane was Marateca, that picture again.
Beautiful.
There you go. Isn't that fantastic? Skills pay the bills there, Andrea.
Really
and Maxine, thank you, was worried about after last night's webinar mentioning customs issues. We'll get the book. German health man seems very interesting. When can we ask questions? Not long now. He's nearly here. He's not actually German.
I think he's German.
He's not
he might
actually
have
German.
Heritage. We'll find out. We'll ask him directly in a sec.
Oh, and Mac 007, Carl, you're correct. Was in New Zealand, but made the move. So you actually made the move. And Salima is in West Algarve. I didn't know that. I do beg your pardon. I look unusually dark. In a good way, I hope. Benoit Munson, still awake. Fantastic. I have panned down a bit, Don, as you've asked me to. Marty, I have started to do breathing exercises. This is a sort of meditation, I suppose. Absolutely. So this was the question. Do people meditate? Victoria, I meditate when walking or running or sitting on the beach randomly. Jim, yes. Victoria, yes. Daily meditation, yoga and pranayama, part of the lifestyle of a tantric yogini. Marvelous. And we spoke to you, of course, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, didn't we, about that path, along with Wolfgang. No meditation for Andrea, but if that the paddle boarding is needing to go by, mixed with yoga, I think you're pretty good at getting to your core in so many ways there, Andrea. Yes to daily meditation for Cindy. You can call me Vicky to allay confusion with multiple Victorias. We've got a multiple Victoria situation. Burley Carl Manson. I love tapping, works for me. So yes, even though that EFT, I forget about it.
Today.
Yes, we forget about tapping in its power, don't we? I think Robert knows a thing or two about tapping as
Yes,
well for
he
sleep
does.
and relaxation. Hi, nice to see you both, Jeannie. And I meditate sporadically. Good evening from Carlos Lima, and good morning, Portugal. This is beautiful. Thank you. Has been a real blessing for me. I've not been home since Corona, so it's been great having a community that is like a family. You are so welcome, and it's lovely to have you part of it. Yeah. Abel in Perthshire tonight, of Portuguese ancestry, but up there in Perthshire, not far from Robert, I suspect.
Yeah.
Antonio F is here as well. So many people, and we'll come back to a few of those because we can't keep Robert waiting too long. Here he is, Robert Jardine. Welcome to the show.
Hi,
Hello,
Robert. How
everyone.
are you?
Yeah. Hi. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. How are you?
Yeah, we're good. Can we just confirm just these questions? Do you have any German ancestry, and how far away is Perthshire from where you are?
I'm not aware of any German ancestry, but Perthshire is 220 miles away.
Oh, so it's quite a
big country, isn't
Yeah.
it? Scotland,
yeah, Scotland is. So how are you doing?
Yeah,
You
I'm doing
well?
good. Yeah, I'm very well. Yep. Life's good. We're planning on going a little trip in the wee caravan, maybe in the next few days out towards Skye, but we're just looking at the forecast, so we're trying to decide whether we're going to go or not, because it looks like it's going to dump on us. So we'll decide tomorrow morning.
It's always hit and miss, isn't it? And it's that time of year, isn't it, when it's just starting to turn.
Yeah, and Skye's in the Western Isles, so that if it's going to rain anywhere, it's going to rain there.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, good luck with that. It's so good to have you here. So far, I've just been talking to Mrs. M after her amazing phone calls with you, and she is clearly blown away by what you're talking about. When I've managed to tune in, because I'm often looking after the kids while you're having your conversations, and the bits I hear are just phenomenal. So can you give us a bit of a sort of potted view to kick us off, and then people will come in with further questions, Robert?
I shared that it was from my perspective, it's taking everything back to a biological level and reminding us that we're part of like all of life. We're not separate from life, and how things are for animals with their conflicts. This German new medicine reminds us that we are not that different. We go through these conflicts. So that's all I started to explain, but I may have made it harder for you.
No, it's so true. I mean, it's all true. German new medicine is wonderfully simple. The concept of it is, if you think about it, it's just common sense, right? And the basic premise of it is that our bodies have got our best interests at heart, and that makes sense, from the point of evolution. There's no sense to think we've got an autoimmune disease, or our body has contracted this condition, or it's created this condition for some reason to make our lives awful. We don't really see it in many other species. Most animals get through life quite healthily until a reasonably old age, and then they go their way. We're the ones that end up in polypharmacy and with all these horrible thoughts about what's happening to us that we don't understand. And German new medicine, it just makes it all so simple. It just makes it completely understandable, and it gives us a compass. Because sometimes, I mean, there's two sets of people get interested in German new medicine. Okay, there's the inquisitive people who just think, oh my, that's really interesting, I want to know about that, and the open-minded. And then there's people who my dog's making a noise here. There's people who
ours will be as well.
Yeah,
in a
we've
minute.
got that.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah. And the other group of people are people that are very ill, and they're desperately looking for some other help because they've gone down the medical route for so long, and time's running out. And they then turn to try and they look it up, and somebody says it, and then they're very keen. But that's not the best time to learn it. The best time to learn the 5 biological laws is when you've got time to think. There's no pressure. And it's a process of learning, because it turns everything completely upside down. And that's not easy when our well-being is at stake. And that it can take months for people to really start to, you read something and you think, well, okay, that sounds good, but you have to prove it to yourself before you prepare to give it validity. So, I mean, I think I was really lucky, because I found out about it because my sister had very serious rheumatoid arthritis, and she was getting crippled very quickly, and her life was awful. I mean, she was in a really, really bad place. And I was trying to help her because I had studied some modalities, and I thought, well, eat right, meditate, all the stuff that we think to do. Take these vitamins, anti-inflammatories and all that. It wasn't really making any difference at all. And then I discovered Dr. Hammer's work, and after one in-depth conversation with my sister, and I'd spoken to her loads of times, but with the knowledge that had given me, my conversation had a direction. And it got to the right direction, and it got right to the cause of her rheumatoid arthritis. And when that was released, and she found a healing through that, within just days, her inflammation had significantly reduced. And she stopped all medication, and within a month, her blood tests were back to normal. And so for me, I didn't need to go through a great big long sort of convincing myself. I actually saw it. The very first person I worked with got better, and got spectacularly better. And that was me then. I thought, oh, right, this is really where it's at. I've got to really start listening to this. So that's where I am. And my sort of life mission now is to help the world discover it like I did.
And what were you doing before that, Robert? What brought you into it? As your existing career?
Well, I was an engineer, and I used to work in the nuclear industry at that time. And I used to, I was also big on racing motorbikes, motocross, exactly. Wow. And and also I had a little sort of sports racing car. It was a little Lotus 7 thing that I built myself. So I was very much into that until I woke up in hospital 15 days after I had crashed it, and that slowed me down a little bit. So wow. That was really my turning point in life, I think, when I had to sort of discover who I was again. That was a big knockback. But then sometimes you need a reset, don't you?
True. It's happening for so many people right now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it happened for me back in 1989, and then from then I got interested in it, and then in 2000 I went to study osteopathy, but I kind of didn't like it. I didn't like the course, and I started studying kinesiology, and then just one thing led to another. But I mean, therapy is a process, isn't it? It's a personal journey, and even though people say I'm a herbalist or do hypnotherapy, we use everything. We're constantly getting more and more tools and more modalities to so that's my healing journey started in 2000, and it was in 2007, I think, when I first heard about German new medicine, and then I obviously helped my sister, and then I did help some other people. And then through personal circumstances, which are very difficult, I started to study it a lot in 2012. And then I ended up studying internationally with some medical doctors in Austria and in Holland. And that really sort of, when you're actually looking at the brain scans and you're actually seeing this stuff in real, you're actually looking at the case histories with the brain scans in front of you, and then it's like a whole new level of understanding comes through. And I realize I'm a kind of obsessive guy when it comes to that. So I really took the bull by the horns, and I immersed myself in it for about 3 years. And I'm now the other side of that, now I'm just trying to spread it. I don't need to know anymore. I want everyone to know about this, because everyone needs to know about it at some time in their lives.
So, Robert, can you explain to the audience and Carl how Dr. Hammer came about this, how he made his discovery? So you've obviously mentioned brain scans, but can you do it further?
Well, Dr. Hammer was a head oncologist in a cancer research clinic in Munich back in the 70s. And he was doing the same thing as everyone else was doing. It was at that time, I think it was chemotherapy and radio treatment, and then, taking parts of the bodies out, removing bits, right? And his results were pretty much standard. He was cured. The people that he was working with, they had a 5-year survival expectancy of about 7%. So it was really hardcore gynecological type cancers that he was working with. And they were expecting to see, on average, about 7% would still be alive in 5 years after diagnosis. And then he got bad news that his son had been very, very badly wounded. He shot, in fact, but he was still alive just. And Dr. Hammer then went to treat him, and his son died about 3 months later in his arms. And then Dr. Hammer contracts testicular cancer, like within months. And he thought, well, I've never been ill in my life. Nothing, not even a cold, right? And here I am with testicular cancer 3 months after my son died. He thought, So he managed, he had an operation. He got one testicle removed, that's all he really had. And he found himself back at work 3 months later, and he decided to investigate all his cases. And lo and behold, he could find a significant trauma, an emotionally active trauma in all of his women prior to the onset of their condition. They thought, oh, right, there you go, that's the same. And then a whole pile of discoveries came after that. But he actually dreamt, he believes that his son told him what to do, because his son was now dead. And he said he had this dream completely clearly. He remembered it absolutely clearly. He got up the next day and he wrote it down. And his son told him that he said, everything is controlled by the brain. You have to photograph the brain. So he went back into work that day, and he was the head oncologist, so he could do it. And he got all his girls in, and he says, right, I'm going to do a CT scan of your brain. And lo and behold, every woman with this particular disease had that particular mark in her brain. And every woman with this other disease had another mark in her brain. And it was 100%. It was not 50% or 70%. It was 100%. So from that, he realized the brain's included. And then that started a whole new avenue of thought for him. And from that thought, which he died in 2017, by 2010, I think, or 2006, thereabouts, he had actually written down 5 laws which are biological laws, and they are at play in 100% of health conditions, 100% of the time, with 100% of the people. So in fact, it's impossible to have an illness, according to his research, which was approaching 50,000 people. It's impossible to have a symptom without the brain telling that symptom to be there. So and his research tells us why the body's done it and what the body's trying to do. And it all turns out that the body's actually, in its own biological way, trying to help us deal with the initial shock which triggered it off. And his method of healing people was always to resolve that conflict practically, if he could. Practically was guaranteed to work. Everything else was not guaranteed to work, but a practical resolution always worked. And the proof of that was, as soon as the person resolved the shock, he would scan them again, and the brain really completely changed in appearance. Within, he'd scan them like within, as quick as he could do the therapy and get them on the CT scanner. I don't know, that takes what, half an hour, or something like that. The person the brain had changed. So, and he actually also studied animals, and the same things happened in animals too. He could actually plot the symptoms in an animal and in the animal's brain. It always coincided. So it's big news.
Well,
And
it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've got so many questions of other people here. Just very quickly, I mean, we're putting links up to where people can find out more. All the W's, freenewmedicine.com with the hyphens in there, and Robert Jardine's own website as well there, robert-jardine.com. And just a quickie then, Simon is asking, can members of the public get these diagnostic scans? Is that how it works, Robert?
Well, yes, you can, if you can find a doctor who will do it for you, but it's very difficult.
Right.
Well, in the UK, definitely so. But the thing is, Dr. Hammer he was able, before he died, to identify every single relay in the brain. So the brain, as well as thinking, when we're having a chat here and we're having it's Saturday night and we're having a conversation. So that's using our intellectual conscious brain. But that's just a little app that's on top of all the biological processing that brain does. Because my brain right now is digesting my dinner, it's balancing my head on my shoulders, I'm able to speak, and I'm able to pump blood around my body and focus my eyes. Well, not as good as I used to, obviously, right? But my brain's busy. My brain's really busy. And it's not thinking. See, this busyness that's going on underneath is interacting with life. And if something in life really stresses it, really shocks it, what happens is the brain just latches onto it. And then from that moment on, that life issue is linked to your brain and linked to your symptom. It's linked. So you then become codependent on that life issue, even though 99.99% of people, and the human people, don't know that. And if everyone knew that, they would be looking into life. Oh, I've got gout. Now we just go to the doctor and think, I've got a really sore toe, I've got gout. But if you know German medicine, you start looking into your life and say, well, this is what causes it. What happened? And then you can start to be practical and get long-lasting results that way.
It's amazing. Sorry, go on. I've got a lot of questions. You go ahead first.
I was just going to say, you were saying like it's 100%, like with the brain scans and with the 50,000 people who tested it on, and they all correlated, and he's worked out every single brain relay. I mean, we can do lots of different things for our health, but we don't always get 100%. So not everyone does improve with a particular diet. Not everyone does improve with, work from a chiropractor, or even with doctors, nothing it seems to be 100%. So this in itself is pretty incredible. But the other thing I think, which it probably leaves it not being accepted, is the fact that there is such a time delay often from, we're not in the habit of associating shocks with causing illness, but like anyone that's of a sort of naturopathic ilk here will probably have read Louise Hay and lots of other authors who have linked organs to emotions, or know about meridian lines and things like that. So, there are people here who will know that like teeth are connected to different systems in the body and different organs and stuff. So it's taking it that step further, isn't it? And actually understanding that all of that probably is linked into the brain relays.
Well, I can't really say. I'm not. I don't know about that. I would say that German New Medicine is the best present that anybody who is into complementary medicine, is into helping people get well, because you can, when you know that, when you understand the biological reasons why the biological symptom is there, right? You can use your modalities in many ways to help that person. And I mean, to me, I study kinesiology and hypnotherapy. Now, all of a sudden, I mean, I transformed from being somebody came into me with, let's say, they get migraines, and you try and do some modality on the migraines, to all of a sudden understanding what causes migraines. And now I'm looking at something totally different in that person's life to work on. Yeah. And then my kinesiology is so much more effective because I'm not working on the migraines. That's just a message from the body. That the body's saying, look, this problem, this type of problem that causes a migraine, and then we find that in their life. And so you end up working, people come to you with a sore elbow, left elbow, and I'm saying, oh, are you left or right-handed? Oh, right. So instantly I know if somebody's left-handed and their left elbow is at getting arthritis or getting inflammation, I know that issue that's causing it is to do with somebody they perceive as a partner. That's amazing, isn't it? You just rub some cream into it, or take a herb, or do this, or do a acupressure point. But when you know that that person's biological brain has got an issue with one of their pack that they see as a partner, it sort of puts your whole you can use your modality so wonderfully then to help that person.
Yeah, you've got context and perspective, and you've got the human.
Yeah,
you've got the grand historical context, and this is what I mean. Great doctors used to know your family, didn't they? They didn't just know you, or not even you, but your doctors know your symptoms now, don't they? And this, Don's making the point. I have got a label. It is water. I promise you, Don. Did whoever refuse to pay on the docs? Moving into what we're talking about with you, Robert. On the doctors, they treat the infection, not the root or the cause, and this has been going on for some time now. And God bless them. They're doing their best. This isn't a session for bashing anybody. This is about introducing people to something new and broadening the conversation. So it's not either or. This is truly holistic, complementary. We're talking here, and I think it's evolutionary. It's historical because you've got Gabor Mate now, haven't you? Talking about how powerful trauma is in people's lives. And we've not, like you were saying, Mrs. M, we've not wanted to go there. It's like, it's not socially acceptable to keep raking over the coals of the past. Let's just move on. Let's just go passive aggressive if we're going to do anything about it and pretend it never happened. But I think people more widely are beginning to make this evolution from, another aspect of this is if the brain scan shows something that's like a fingerprint or a reflection of what's going on, we've moved on, haven't we, from the complementary therapies of the 70s, where people used to say, well, you kind of have to believe it for it to work. And, we don't know how it works, but it does. And that was enough for people. But now, if you've got a modality that shows up scientifically, as it's done with, as you say, with 50,000 cases, as well as bringing results that seem incredibly like supernatural almost, that is an evolution as far as I'm concerned. And this recognition of the power of trauma in our lives is so important because it's causing chaos and misery.
May I just interject? Based on what you've just said, Carl, I wouldn't say it's complementary. I would say it's essential.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah.
The scientific backing and whatnot. If it works, which I believe it does, based on me unpacking my stuff, and I trust what Robert's saying, and also with some of the things I've been reading about, if it is as good as we think it is, then it's not a complementary. This is
fair enough. I just meant within the context of our discussion. It should all be looked at together, I think, and considered, and that's what we're here. We're open-minded, we're open-hearted. This is something to talk about that's really important because clearly the way we do medicine at the moment is so hit or miss and so expensive, so ineffective sometimes. Medicine being the third. Even medics will tell you that medicine itself is the third leading cause of death. So that can't be. That's not very good, is it? As a hit rate. Depending which way you look at it. But it's not very effective. And what I love therapists or healers or whatever you want to call them, practitioners who do what you just said there, Robert, which is like you'll tell them your symptoms, and you'll be thinking, okay, I'm going to get a pill or a potion or an exercise to do here, and they say, have you got something going on maybe with your mother's side of the family? Was there some issue going on there? And you're like, wow, how do you know that? How do you know that? But that's such a great confirmation, and that's what's possible with this method, right?
We've got a question. Oh, sorry.
Yep. No, please go on. Yeah.
Is that okay? We've got a question from Victoria, or one of the Victorias tonight. Curious if a pregnant woman gives birth to a child with a genetic malformation that is in the child a hypertrophic left leg stroke KT syndrome. I don't understand what that means.
I don't know that.
Do you understand what that is referring to, Robert?
Hypertrophic. I'm not too sure, but what I will say about what we naturally think are things like genetic malformation. There's not really genetic malformations. The baby, round about, I don't know exactly, but round about a couple of months after conception, okay, that baby's brain has differentiated, the cells are differentiated, the brain has started to form, and the body started to form. And from that time on, that baby can suffer trauma, and that is the cause of what you might say deformed or malformed limbs, or anything that's not formed as the original plan was designed. But the reason that is usually because of a part of the brain called the cerebral medulla, which is it's like the new brain at the top, but it's in deep, not the cortex, which is the surface, but in deep in there. And that part of the brain has a lot of the trophic relays, we call them, and a child, for example, suffers a trauma when it can't hear its mother's heartbeat. Right? Let's say she goes into something that's really noisy. Now, to that fetus, right, if it can't hear that mother's heartbeat, it means death, right? Biologically, I mean, little things only, it's only 6 months after conceptions or 8 months after conception, right? Okay, it doesn't listen to too much television by then, probably a little bit passively, but right, unfortunately. But do you know what I mean? It's just a little wee simple thing, but it's there. It's a completely, its psyche is radars out. All its senses are radaring out, right? And if it loses mum's heartbeat, major panic hat. Now that can cause a trauma, and that trauma, if it affects the cerebral medulla, you may well end up with a deformity. And that's what Dr. Hammer, when he scanned the heads of people with these limbs that are malformed, lo and behold, there's the trauma in the brain, and it's still there because it never got resolved. Yeah.
And again, we go back to the animal instincts, don't we? Or you're talking about the hearing the mother's heartbeat. These are just such animal level.
Yeah,
it's
totally
responses, aren't they? Yeah, incredible.
Yeah,
incredible.
Should also say that Robert and I are going to do a special. I say I'm going to do the special. I'm just going to be hosting Robert, but Robert's going to be talking us through miscarriage, and I think that's probably going to take up a whole session. So if anyone here is has suffered a miscarriage or knows somebody that's going through it, or is considering getting pregnant, it's quite useful, isn't it? In preparing
that
to make sure you don't have a trauma.
Incredibly important. If you know anybody who is in its time of life where they're going to have children, then they absolutely should listen to this, because I'm going to explain what causes babies to be miscarried and how to avoid that trauma that causes that, because it's heart-wrenching. I understand it. It's just absolutely, it's the worst thing ever, and it can be avoided. So it's definitely worth a
Okay.
look. So spread the word,
So
everyone.
maybe, Mrs. M, put in your YouTube channel for people to subscribe to that special in
yeah.
due course. Yeah, and the Gilchrists are here, the Gibsons are here, and $1 million question, Robert. Obviously, how do we reverse the trauma? How do we swim back upstream and deal with this? The symptoms that are showing themselves.
Well, you practically resolve the issue if you can, and if not, you have to discover what the issue is and change your perspective, change your relationship with that issue profoundly, not just consciously, not playing word games, but somehow something has to switch inside your knowing, inside your relationship with that trauma. You got to see it differently, and then everything flows from our held trauma. So that when that trauma is released, then we go through a process of healing, and that's the goal. And it doesn't always work. It really does not. And the biggest problem is actually finding the trauma, or to be exact, you have to find the trauma, and then you have to go through the trauma on the right emotional thread, because you can think of something consciously but almost objectively and not actually feel it, right? You have to get the person to sort of go through the trauma in the emotions that are needed for that to be released and brought to the conscious awareness. And so it's not easy,
discovered? Is this what Dr. Hammer discovered then? So that's the modality, that's the kind of post-traumatic healing modality. And is that what you do with people?
Yeah, I do that because I understand that most symptoms, somebody comes with like inflammation, right? Now, actually, inflammation is a sign of healing. But what's happening with the person that's got ongoing inflammation is that the trauma keeps getting reactivated, then goes into healing. So you end up in this constant toing and froing in and out of conflict active into healing. And so to find out what the actual trauma is, you don't look at when the inflammation started. That actually tells you when the healing started. So you've got to know your diseases, and when you know the diseases, so if somebody comes to me with say, let's say a glandular breast cancer, right? Then, I mean, not that officially, I obviously don't treat that, but I treat the emotional issues which that person may well be contributing to it, right? That's the way I would like to describe what I do. So if it's a glandular breast cancer, then you're looking for when the lump started. But if it's an intraductal breast cancer, you're looking from when the healing started.
Okay.
You see,
so we're talking about healing journeys.
When you're talking about the healing, you're talking about when the emotional healing started. So, for instance, when
I'm talking about specifically, I'm talking about when, like most diseases that we go to the doctor with, I don't know, but probably 70% of all diseases are actually signs that the psyche in the brain has let go of the issue, and the body is now doing a biological reversal. And guess what? It makes us feel very ill. It makes us have heart attacks. It makes us have strokes. It makes us have sweating. It makes us have fever, sore throat, the flu, measles, mumps, meningitis. These are actually all symptoms that the psyche has let go of a specific issue, and the body is now trying to biologically rewire itself and rebuild tissues. And of course, it comes with inflammation and feeling really feeling ill. So when you know that, you start before you go and fill your face with antibiotics, you realize, hold on, all those bacteria are working for me. So why do I want to kill them? Or if you've got thrush, just putting some ointment on there to kill the thrush, you think, hold on, whoa, my body's controlling that thrush to remove dead cells. So why remove the thrush? Because if I do remove the thrush, I'm going to be left with the dead cells. So I would like to just manage the situation, and then when it's all done, I'll be better. And I want to know what caused it so that I can avoid that. So I won't get thrush every 3 times a year.
And this is what people live with, isn't it? You know, these so-called chronic conditions are what you're talking about. These ongoing situations where true healing, like foundational healing hasn't taken place, but the body is going through a continuous healing process.
And because often with those traumas, there's a biological imperative. Like, for instance, using marking or territory. Conflict. You know, like when I've obviously at some level felt threatened, it sets off a territorial conflict. And what's my body doing at that point, Robert?
Well, so that's a urinary. You're talking about UTIs or urinary tract infections. Okay.
So what is my body doing during that? On a biological level before it starts the healing?
Absolutely. Okay. So as we are designed to live in a pack, in a group, in a clan, in a tribe, right? And within that tribe, we all want to have our place. We want to feel that we belong somewhere, right? And we also, especially the males, we want to define, well, this is our place. This is our boundary. We don't want anyone else encroaching on our ground. So the way animals and us, well, in the past, us too, the way we would do that is we would mark our territory. The women tend to mark their place within the territory, and the men tend to mark the boundaries of the territory. Right? That's what wolves do, and you know, many other pack animals do that we know, right? Well, when we as human beings get a territorial marking conflict, as in, I don't know where I belong, or my boundaries are getting challenged, our body reacts to that biologically without consciously knowing it. Our body reacts biologically to that, and what it does is it says, well, I'm going to help you urinate everywhere so you can mark your place. Right? It's common sense. I mean, it's helping us, right? So what does it do? It's a process called necrosis of the lining of the urinary tubes. So that you've got these tubes that take our pee from our kidneys till it leaves our body, goes through the bladder, right? And when we have a conflict going, an active conflict, the tubes open up in size because the lining of them becomes wider through a process of necrosis, which necrosis basically is like the body eating its own tissue away to make it wider. And the biological reason for that is it helps the person urinate to mark their place, or the dog or the wolf or the coyote or anything else that does it. It helps them urinate. But when the shock or when the issue is resolved, right, the body says, well, job done. Got to put it back to normal. So then it needs loads of inflammation and maybe a bit of discharge and pain. Now we go to the doctor and try and get that cured. You see, but when the thing is, what you got to do is you got to think, right, okay, so what's my issue? Because this has been going on and on. So that's what you do. Then you go into life and you go into the office and you say, right, this is my desk because I'm sick of getting moved about, right? Or something like that, you know, or if, you know, it can be whatever in life it's going to be. And then what will happen is you will have one more episode of the inflammation as the body finally heals and comes out the other side of the process, and that's it, done and dusted. You don't get it again.
Oh, it's so amazing, Robert, because when people start to think about this in their lives, they start to realize, don't they, about all the stuff that they, as an animal, wouldn't put up with, but as a nice human being, they will put up with.
Yeah,
and they make their lives.
Totally
they make their lives a disaster, don't they, by being a nice
Completely
human being and overriding all their animal stuff. So that's a really great example, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like you can imagine why someone at work might, I'm not bloody moving again. This is I used to work at a place where the boss would tell everybody, like probably most months, okay, we're moving everything around again. You've got a new office. I used to love it because I grew up like that. So I was well tuned to it, and I don't know what underlying health conditions I've got as a result of it, but I used to quite, thrive in that environment. But literally all my rest of my colleagues were pissed off, and that you can't underestimate the value of that word, can you? About how that's part of anger, why we use it with anger.
Yeah.
It's
Pissed off. Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
Yes, I haven't thought about that, but I'll that one's gone in. I'll remember that one. But isn't it? You see, but just so I finish that what I was saying, the body was trying to help us all the time.
Yeah.
And then when the body tries to help itself to get back to normal again, we get a symptom. And then we seek some kind of prophylaxis for that symptom. But German New Medicine says, whoa, understand it. Understand and then tread wisely, as they say.
Yeah.
We've
Understanding is such, what is it? 60% of healing is understanding, isn't it?
Yeah,
Or,
I would say more. I'd say more.
Okay, all right. Fair enough. Sorry, Mrs. M, what are you going to say?
We've got a question from Silvana B, who's asking about an inflammation, bursitis.
Bursitis, yeah.
So I have bursitis in my left shoulder. I have no idea how I did it. I haven't been able to move my arm full range since Feb this year. Thank you.
Robert's got to ask, is she left or right-handed?
Left or right-handed. It's
interesting. That's right. I have to ask that, yeah.
Because when you were talking about the sore elbow, since just before we moved, something happened to my right elbow, the inner side of my elbow. And you're mentioning left-handed. I'm left-handed. So that's actually to do with my pack, isn't it? Not my partner. With my right arm. It's my children.
Sorry, you're left-handed, right? I know you're left-handed. And which elbow is it? And you?
It's the inside of my right elbow.
So your right elbow is your mother-child elbow.
Yeah.
Or your nest. The best way to look at it is it's your nest. So the concerns that you're
moved. It was leading up to us leaving and moving. It's my nest. Is it a nest disruption?
It's a nest. It's called a nest worry. Yeah, it's a nest. So your kids or your mum, because you came from the nest. So it's all associated. Your mother, even your granny actually, and your mother, or your kids or your grandkids, or even your beloved pet. They're all in your nest. So it turns out that Dr. Hammer discovered that a whole half of your brain is kind of looking out for the well-being of your nest, and it will modify your body to help you provide for that nest better. Whereas the other half of the brain, it modifies our body. For me, it's my left half, which is my right side, because I'm right-handed. So it modifies my left brain, which is my right side of my body, to help me with issues that my psyche perceives as pack related. So my partner, my brothers and sisters, my people at work, the tax man, the policeman, whatever might be chasing me. Not that they are, but I used to say, not anymore.
We're all looking over.
So your friend on the inflammation, right? So bursitis of the left shoulder. Well, if the lady is right-handed, then it's something to do with what she does. The whole quadrant of the arm and the shoulder is about doing things. The leg is about moving things and propelling us, right? But the arm is about, the hand specifically is about doing. And then the arm is about holding on to or defending away from us, right? And same for the whole shoulder girdle. So if the lady, Silvana, if she hasn't a severe physical injury, let's say she was jumped on by a wrestler and put into a double, twisted out of proportion and she's burst something, that's different. But if there's no physical reason for it, then it will be, if you look back to when it first started, and itis tells us it's inflammation. So that tells us that that's when it first went into healing. So it's a bit more difficult, but you got to say, right, when this first flared up, something changed in my life just prior to that. Within a day, 2 days at most, probably a day. And that thing that changed sort of half resolved something. But if it's continuing on and on and on, I mean, 8 months is quite a time, but I've seen, you see, the healing can last as long as the conflict activity lasted. So if that person, if Silvana was conflict active for 2 years, then her healing is going to last a lot longer than 8 months. Even if it's a full 100% healing and her body's cruising on to get fully better again, she can look forward to at least a year's worth of sore shoulder. But if the conflict was only active for, let's say, a month or two, and then the healing happened, it should only last maybe 2 or 3 months. But if it's dragging on for 8 months, what that tells us is that the conflict keeps getting reactivated and then goes back into healing. That was the process with my sister, because her rheumatoid arthritis, she'd had it for 16 years before that one conversation, which saw the back of it. 16 years. But see, every night, every day, every time the thought came to her head, it went in to the process and then came out of the process with inflammation. And that's the same with bursitis. And if Silvana is right-handed and it's her left shoulder, then it will have a relevance to her children or her mother or something in her nest, like her mum, her granny, her children, or her pets, or her grandkids.
And it's to do with doing something, actively doing something, or shouldering something.
Or supporting, or doing, or holding, or defending, or providing for, or fixing. And you've got to, you just learn to be so laterally thinking when you're doing this, because the rules that the psyche has are, hard to understand from a conscious thinking person. You have to really let your logic fly out the window. But
and if she's left-handed, then
it's to do with her. It'll be like your partner or your dad or your sister or your friends or your football team or your hockey team or the boys down the club or the clan or the tribe. Yeah. And
amazing. Let us know, Silvana. It'd be so interesting if that resonates to hear that. Thanks, Robert. Don's saying, so the brain scan is a log of what's up. So to treat the problem that may have developed, eliminate the root cause. My list starts with a small focus on signal abnormality present in the right frontal lobe. So Don sounds like he's got a bit of a head start on this, pardon the pun. But it's
terrible, Carl.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Fascinating, says Johann Schwartz, perhaps from the land of the originator here. A fascinating topic. Thank you for putting this on air for us. Beautiful months. Oh, cheers, Johann. Nice listening to Robert too. Yeah. So make sure you visit Robert's website and get in touch with the materials. Tom S. Butard, Ohio. I just scheduled my booster. Good for you, Tom S. I guess that's a whole other subject we may or may not get into this evening. But from Tom S. to John S., your mentality is very important when fighting any disease. What would you say of that metaphor of fighting disease, Robert?
I would say, sometimes when I'm working with clients, I say, right, let's just stop where you are. Just stop. And you're trying to fight this or win or beat this condition. And what I would say is, just imagine in your own mind, just stand up, walk around the table and sit beside the condition and just have a chat together about what you can do to help each other and find out what that condition is telling you about in life. And then the two of you kind of work to fix that. And the condition then becomes your feedback. So your condition actually becomes a bit of a friend, because if your inflammation suddenly, inflammation would actually get worse if you resolved it, but it would get constant and then you would know it's going to an end. So that would be a positive sign. So the person has to know that. Yes, so that's what I think about symptoms and you know, how to everything's you know, like your body talks to you through symptoms. It tells a whole story, and Dr. Hammers is interpreted that story, so we can just look it up and say, right, that symptom tells us the body has suffered that. Let's sort that in your life, and then your body will go flip in a split of a second. It'll start to heal. I mean, I've seen people heal or go into healing from extremely serious conditions, and it always happens at night. So if I'm working with somebody, helping somebody, let's say with certain issues, and they've come to me with, you know, some very serious condition, if you actually crack the code, if you like, and find the life issue and change the perspective, then that night the healing will start. And I'm talking about the most serious of conditions, the terminal ones. And that's how quick it happens, you know. And then, of course, you've got a whole new set of problems or things to navigate, because healing always comes with symptoms. So what Dr. Hammer found, and this is the best way of describing this to keep me feeling comfortable about it, is he found that when he was working with adenocarcinomas, when they actually practically resolved the issue, that night the person would go into healing, and then they would suffer a whole set of other symptoms which they had to get through. But about 92% of all his clients did get through them.
Yeah. Compared
to 7% on allopathic remedies.
Yeah.
Okay, so you compare over 90% to 7%, it's significant of a difference.
True.
Yeah. Definitely. And it's all about knowing, you know, it's let's all learn this stuff. Let's not, you know, like engage with it, you know, let's set up some group, let's do something, let's point people in the right direction so that you know it before you get the diagnosis.
Well, point taken there, Robert, because this is a way of thinking about life and living, isn't it? And being, as much as it is, you know, some help in an acute situation. So totally. as a life philosophy. I mean, before you go, if you can stay with us a little bit longer, I mean, I want to ask a sort of a connected question to the how you mentioned the psyche before, and tie in some of the comments we've had. But I think Mrs. M wanted to add something there.
Yeah, a couple of things actually. First of all, we've got some lovely comments that are coming in, and a cheeky one. So I'd like to share those.
That's normal.
With you. But also, I just wondered if you could share about the heart attack connection as well, because I think that's kind of interesting, but also important in case people rush off to resolve their issues.
Yeah, this is coming from a conversation we had, isn't it, Louisa?
Yeah.
So
I will put the links to our shows actually.
Yeah.
Comments.
Well, I'll tell you what, right? I'll tell you something really interesting about heart attacks, right? If you look at a CT scan of somebody's brain, you can tell they're going to have a heart attack 2 weeks before it happens, right? Which is pretty amazing, right? And as you know, a lot of people don't survive heart attacks. I mean, it can be the end of the road for a lot of people. And you can actually tell that by looking at the person's history before they even have the heart attack. 100% accurately every time. So that's big news. And it also means that conditions like heart, it's primarily to do with the heart and to do people with diabetes, because diabetes is completely curable, and so is hypoglycemia. It's just that sometimes the curing of it needs medical help too, to keep the person, to help the person get through the body's recovery process. And of course that might be hard to find, because you know you can't go telling the doctor what to do. They tell you what they're going to do. So that can be tricky. So Louisa has talked about the heart attack. So when you look at a brain scan, I picture I didn't have some for you. I could show you them tonight, but if you look at a brain scan and you look, there's basically two types of heart attack that I would like to talk about. One affects the coronary artery, which is the artery that supplies blood back to the heart, because the heart itself is a muscle that never rests. So it needs a good blood supply. And the other type of heart attack is the myocardial infarction, which is talking about the muscle tissue of the heart. Now, Dr. Hammer discovered that the conflict which causes the first one, which is the coronary artery related heart attack, is a conflict. It's called a territorial loss conflict, where an animal loses its territory. So what nature does is, to help it fight to get its territory back, it says, well, you're going to need to struggle very hard, chap or woman. So I'm going to widen your artery so that your heart's going to get 50% more blood if it needs it. Because when you go back in for the fight, you're either going to win and get your territory back, or you're going to lose and be left in the wilderness to die on your own, right? So you're going to be surplus to biological needs, and that's not good. So what the body does is it widens the coronary artery, and it can actually widen it significantly by, like the volumetric flow rate of it can be something like 40% better after 3 weeks of intense conflict activity. And this allows that person to win their territory back. When the territory's back, the body goes into the healing phase. And halfway through that healing phase, you have a coronary artery related heart attack. Now, how you would want to, how you know if it's a coronary artery related issue that's going on in your brain is because you feel a symptom of angina. So angina is caused by an active territorial loss conflict. Not entirely, because if you're you can actually be left-handed. I mean, you have a sexual conflict which can cause angina in a left-handed person. It's more complex than this conversation allows us to get into.
Of course.
Right, but what I'm saying is that it's like heart attacks, which are apparently kill about a third of us in the end, are healing symptoms, and therefore sometimes it's prudent not to heal certain types of issue because it will lead to a traumatic healing crisis. A heart attack is a good example. Severe hypoglycemia is another one. If somebody repairs the conflict which causes diabetes, you can go into hypoglycemic coma, and you can basically it can be the end of you. So it takes care, and learning German new medicine gives you the knowledge. You then manage yourself. If you've had angina for the last 10 years, you're going to say to yourself, well, hey, I don't want to heal this because it's not going to be good for me. So I'm just going to maybe take some medicine from the doctor that makes me feel better and carry on. So that's one type. The other type of heart attack is a myocardial infarction, which is caused by severe, unbearably intense stress, and that affects the heart muscle. And when that goes into resolution in the motor cortex, it's in the motor cortex, up at the top of the motor cortex up here, you have an epileptic seizure of the heart. So it's funny, right? I mean, this I hope I don't upset anyone by this, but like, you realize how daft CBT is. What do they call it? When you do the pump in the heart and you're doing the kiss of life and you're doing all that, right?
CPR.
We're all taught. I used to work offshore, right? And I mean, we used to do that every year. We were all, snogging this dummy and pumping up and down with her, making this thing jump about the floor, right? But when you know German new medicine, you realize, well, actually, the heart attack happens in the brain, and the heart's just doing what the brain tells it to do. And like occlusion of the coronary artery is nothing to do with diet. It's caused by, as I said to you to start with, Louis says that the first one is your territorial loss, is your coronary artery, right? Right?
Mm.
Well, when it goes into healing, you have inflammation, swelling. Well, that blocks it up. Well, then the person dies of the heart attack. They cut the heart open. They say, oh my God, you've been eating too many fish and chips. Because, oh, look at that coronary artery. It's all blocked up, man. But it's not. It's because it's going through the healing process, an intense healing process. And the body is like a sticking plaster. What, you know, you go to any first aid kit, you got a sticking plaster, right? Well, the body uses oh God, what's it? It's the word's just gone. Glucose. Jeez, oh, cholesterol.
I think
the body cholesterol. The body uses cholesterol, right? So cholesterol is the sticking plaster that the body uses. So yeah, the coronary artery is going mad with biological activity to try and rebuild itself, because you've just won your territory back 2 weeks ago, or 3 or 4 weeks ago. You got the job. You got the woman back. You defended your boundary. You got your, you know, you won the big case in court over who stole your land. You won it. Hey, you thought, great. You didn't notice that the angina disappeared when you walked out of the courtroom, but 3 weeks later you had the heart attack. Then they cut you open and they look at all the stuff in the coronary artery and they say, oh, you've been eating bad, right? Too many garlic breads and stuff. But it's not that. You know, it's the fact that the body's been using cholesterol to patch up the inside, to allow all this activity to keep going without the whole thing imploding and blood going everywhere. And death occurs in the brain before the heart even stops beating. The heart will actually keep beating, because the heart is a muscle that's self-excitatory. So you could be stone dead and your heart's still fluttering away. So these are things.
See it with a chicken.
It is. And also, one more thing, right? One more thing I'm going to tell everyone. And this is going to,
the Colombo moment. The Colombo moment.
Too much water is bad, right? Especially if you're having, because if we're all told to drink, try and drink 2 liters a day, or 3 liters a day, or the more the better, apparently. Okay. Well, the thing is, it's all excess, eh? And if we're having, all healing is controlled by the brain. And when the brain heals, you get, the brain really swells up with fluid. And that's what causes seizures, epileptic fits, blackouts, and everything else. Well, the more you drink, the worse it gets.
Yeah. Well,
because there's more fluid in the brain.
Optimal. Yeah, I get it, and that's why nobody probably wants and can do it, isn't it? Not many people can do that. Their body doesn't want them to do it on some level, right?
Nah, totally. You should drink. If you're thirsty, you take a bit of water. But this business of sort of taking 2 liters, 3 liters a day, thinking it's flushing my system, and that it's not at all. It's just working your kidneys really hard. And guess what? Kidneys stop working when you're abandoned. An abandonment conflict causes COVID.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I thought, just as I thought we were going to wind things down, he just chucks the COVID in there.
Yeah. So self-isolating is questionable. Let's put it that way.
Oh, I see. Because you're abandoning yourself then. Oh my goodness. Okay. Let's catch up a bit here, because so many healing breakthroughs. The old alternative medicine into the mainstream, like 20 years ago, yoga, meditation, breathwork was considered woo-woo. Now, new age, touchy-feely nonsense. And now, says Jim, it is quite different and widely accepted and recommended. And Simon, interesting comment. You've got another more interesting one later, Simon. We'll come to that.
Yeah.
I read a Dianetics book once with a similar procedure. This sounds more relatable and grounded. Yeah. Old L. Ron Hubbard does struggle to get people's ear, I think, from time to time. We dealt with, Silvana, we didn't hear back from Silvana, but it would be great too. Thank you for your comments, Don, and to Johan as well. On a side note, Mr. Gilchrist wants to know what your field of engineering was, because he's an engineer.
Instrumentation. So
Instrumentation.
instrumentation and control systems. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay,
Which is it's kind of like the brain. You know, I fitted into it quite easy.
There are no what are they called? I can't remember what the word is now. What New Agers call synchronicities. No coincidences. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
The signs were there. Pete, this is really amazing. Cindy B has recognized something here. This is so interesting.
Sure, you've got a comment on that.
Cold weather eczema. Never had any skin problems in my life. It started the winter I divorced the ex. How incredible.
Do you want me to explain that?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. Okay. So eczema affects the epidermis, which is the top layer of your skin. And that is controlled from the newest part of the brain, the cortex. And that relates to the newest conflicts, which is, this is when we'd evolved out of the soup of the primordial soup, and we'd become animals that had contact. Like, we lived in groups, we had packs, right? So eczema is caused by a separation conflict, either wanted or not wanted. And this makes me think of my cold water. So cold water is what I call a track. So when Cindy suffered the trauma of the separation from somebody, either wanting to separate or not wanting the separation, the body was also recording cold weather. So therefore, every time you suffer cold weather from that time going forward, it reactivates that brain relay and you get the symptom, which actually, it reactivates the brain relay. And then when the brain relay goes into healing, you get the symptom, because eczema is a healing symptom of a separation conflict. And cold weather is a track for Cindy. So that's really good. Amazing. And what Cindy needs to do is do a line on a big piece of paper, think, when did it very, very, very first start? And then you think, what happened just before that? Because something would have kind of resolved, or something. It depends on how quickly it went into conflict active to resolution, but she will get something that happened that'll link to something that's separate. Maybe somebody died, maybe she fell out with the boyfriend, maybe
but the divorce is the thing here, right?
Oh, the divorce. Sorry, yeah, exactly. Divorce. I didn't see that yet.
Yeah. So there you go. Well, there you have it. That would probably be it, Cindy.
It could be
by the sound of it. Here's an old-fashioned approach to healing. Pete noticed you had a nasty cough and blessed you. It all helps. It all helps, doesn't it?
Nerves.
Don Murphy. Well, we've been working you hard as well. And you I don't think you've had a sip of water. I list the C4. So he's got a bad back, ulnar damage in the arms, mucosal damage, keratosis and cellulitis in both lower limbs and hands. Oops, I just passed away. Lol. Don, get well soon. Get well soon. What else can I say? And if you need, is the garlic needed for recovery? I mean, I think it sounds like you're going to need a bit more than garlic there, mate. But all the best with it. Yeah. But it sounds like you laugh a lot, I think. Some of the best medicine.
It's that time of year, isn't it? In between seasons, I always find I get a bit snotty or a little chesty, just as the season is changing.
Follow the links, Don. Follow the links.
Anyway, Simon had a heart attack, traumatic incident in 2013, and a heart attack followed. Reduced my liver function is that to 35%. I blamed it on having takeaways every night and a bad diet. However, sounds like it's more to do with a traumatic incident there, Simon. Slightly random question here. Is Portugal available for students? Well, Anan, there are student visas and you can come and study in Portugal under certain conditions. You'd have to speak to an immigration expert on that. What about pH? Yeah, I don't think Robert can help with that. What about pH levels in the body? Because this was a big thing, wasn't it? A few years ago, super greens, and we're all too acidic and stuff. Do you think this is a big issue? Because at the same time, that's when the big water intake was recommended as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, I do know about that. Yeah. The pH is what the body wants it to be. And if the body is in, I don't know whether it's either conflict activity or healing, one of the two, it wants a high pH, it wants a low pH, as in an acidic body. And I think that's in the healing phase, actually. And so therefore the body adjusts the pH to the optimum acidity to help the biological process that's happening, because the brain has been shocked and it's doing something, that the psyche is doing something in the body. And so therefore the activity, the pH of the body is ideal always. Just because if somebody says, oh, this person's got very low pH and they've got this condition, is a misunderstanding of that condition. That condition is actually just part of a biological process, which the body is modulating all its internal environment to help get through.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. Homeostasis.
Yeah. So the pH, just
homeostasis.
love your body. Love your body. That's the thing. Love it. And say, man, it's just, you're helping me. Now, can I help you? That's the thing. I want to help my body, not by telling it what its pH is, but saying, what have I done wrong in life that's causing my pH to go out,
Well said, well said. So Johan saying Cindy just needed to move to the Algarve. and Cindy replying for herself, I was thinking that exactly. I really need to move to Portugal. All part of the plan. So look at this.
We've got an answer from Silvana, and you were right.
Go on, love. Go on.
You were right, because you were saying, because her shoulder, it was her left shoulder, you were saying if she's right-handed, it would be her mum or children. And thank you for that feedback. I thought about it, that the time it started was the last time I saw my mum, back in February.
But there you go.
I remember thinking, I'm not sure when I'll see you again. And she just added, we live in a different state, and due to lockdowns here in Australia, it feels like this is never ending.
Okay.
So what could Silvana do right now?
Absolutely.
That her shoulder and that feeling that might be linked to her mum, what can she do? Is it the realization of that can help?
Well, that certainly helps on the conscious level, right? Because you suddenly you understand, right? So your body is trying to do something biologically to maybe help you support your mum or hold on to your mum. Okay, so you can stop.
You think she's re-triggering it every time she thinks about her mum, and that might be why it's still going on 8 months later?
Yeah, it could be. That could be the case. Why not do an experiment? Why not say phone your mum up and see how it feels that night or soon after? Just start to be very sensitive to the symptom, and then start to say, well, I'm going to not think about my mum for 3 days or something, and see if it reduces, or something like that. Just to see if you can get some correlation between the activity of inflammation and your interaction with that life issue. But go and see your mum, or
that's the
get
practical
Skype,
action.
Get a big television, get there, have a chat, get the big visual, audio. Okay, you can't touch them, but it's a lot better than nothing.
Yes, absolutely. The practical steps that you talked about.
I really feel for you, Silvana. And please let us know how that goes. I'm very conscious of the fact that within 8 months of me leaving home first time round, my mum was diagnosed with breast cancer, and then 4 days after Carl and I left the UK to come to Portugal, my mum had a stroke, and I feel quite, I feel a little bit not triggered by what Silvana's sharing, but I really feel for my mum, because she seems to have some kind of event after, I leave home. Because like when I left home the first time round, it was to leave and go to France. So
with pack animals, like Robert said, with pack animals, it hurts. It hits us hard, doesn't it?
I've left home to another
Mhm.
country twice, and my mum, bless her, has got ill.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
quite soon after. And
Yeah,
big ill,
and
she's got over them. But
yeah, well, that's good, eh? The stroke, 4 days is close. If your mum had a stroke 4 days after you left, that would, and if it was a severe stroke or a significant stroke, I think it would indicate that something else might have caused that. It is a healing symptom, but
yeah.
4 days would indicate that it was a very, very short conflict activity. And if it was very short conflict activity, the brain hasn't built up enough energy in it to do damage to itself.
Oh well.
Right.
I mean,
So
she still had a stroke
don't blame
anyway.
yourself. Yeah, don't blame
Don't
yourself.
blame
You know,
yourselves. Yeah,
yeah.
it's probably your dad. Probably your dad. Only kidding, Alan. Only kidding. So thank you. I mean, Robert, can I ask you just one more question?
Aye, you're ask on. I'm here for you.
Oh, thank you. Because then there are two. But the first one is the big philosophical question. You know, what is it about us humans with our difference to the rest of the animal kingdom that has actually ended up being our own worst enemies? Because clearly,
I can tell you what that is. The BBC.
Go on.
Just switch the telly off.
That's sorted that out then.
Yeah, we're because we've got this sort of level of intelligence that we can be led out.
Yeah.
We can be led down the garden path where you can't worry a dog by telling it stuff because it just doesn't. It just goes right. But
yes.
we go. Oh my god. It could get in. Lock the doors, and we must keep isolated or whatever. So we allow ourselves to be, and that's a whole show in itself, isn't it? I mean, really things should change because we should not be any less healthy than buffaloes or something, you know.
But that's the other part of it. You see, that's the other part of it for me. We have been given this. So an animal has a trauma, and it lies down, licks its wounds, and sleeps it off, and might have some of those jittery dreams, and would appear to let it go and become part of the instinct. Okay, so if it got a beating from a great big dog of a certain kind, next time it doesn't go near that dog, and it's afraid to go near dogs of that kind. Now, human beings have a like some, it kicks off or there's some traumatic event. Yeah. And we don't lie down afterwards, do we? We don't process. And that happens again. And then
I tell you why, because we don't know. See, if you know the biological laws, you would say, oh my God, I've just had a beating there. Yeah. Oh, what do I feel like I should do here? Yeah. I never heed I don't have a fight against my own. I shouldn't. I'm not going to say, oh, I'm just a coward. I should get back in there and beat him up. The guy's 6'10", and you're going to get a hammering whatever you do, right? So, but we just go on and on and on at ourselves, and then we say, oh, you're rubbish, aren't you? You're a coward, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, you've got self-devaluation coming in. You've got your arthritis coming at you, or your lateral deviation of your spine or something. We because we don't realize the damage that our attitudes can do, then we do it. But if we was taught this at primary school, if by the time we got to primary 7, if we chose to go to school, or if we were forced to go to school, right? By the time we got finished that age, we should know the 5 biological laws, and we should actually know on a reasonable level how to stay healthy for the rest of our lives.
Wouldn't that be something?
Or how it'd be incredible. It'd be incredible.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, wouldn't it just? Yeah, wouldn't it just? Yeah. It would teach us how to live.
Yeah. Well, Capricorn 12, similar situation. Had to do the finger walking exercise up the wall and lean into my shoulder. Within 2 weeks, the bursitis had gone. So I'm not sure what event you had going on there, Capricorn 12. Perhaps you're making those connections for yourself. My final question, Robert, is... Sorry, love, go on.
I was just going to quickly share 2 links just to let people know that the links are there. We've done 2 shows together. The first one, Robert was really talking about the 5 biological rules or laws of German new medicine. So it's quite in depth, and there's a link there. And then we've also got a show, which was literally just this week. And it really focused around bones and arthritis and teeth, didn't it? We did a lot on that. And so there's the links there. You can just go to, there you go, is my name, Louisa Tanner Munson. You go there, and it's, you can find it. So I think I also posted it to Feel Good Portugal as well. So it should be in the backlog of videos. Sorry, Carl.
Not at all. No, I'm just trying to segue into the next item tonight, as we say a fond farewell to Robert. It's about aging, Robert. And we're starting a new program in our community on Expats Portugal for, people are getting on a bit. And for me, it's like I can feel my eyesight beginning to go a little bit. And I put that down to tiredness. And I can hear my knees when I go up and down the stairs now. And a bit of a beer belly in the man boobs. And what I need to do, I want to get back. I need to get back my bikini body. And we're going on a program on Monday to do that, right? And it's going to be, it's not Baywatch. It's called Grey Watch, okay? But what do you have to say about the aging conversation and the things we tell ourselves about aging? Could we just finish with that?
Yeah, right on. Right. So I think that we humans speed up our aging significantly because there is a whole part of the brain which it works on the whole concept, or the whole issue that part of the brain focuses on is what we call self-devaluation, or not being good enough, right? Right. And when that those relays are triggered, as can be seen on the CT scans, and if you got the money and you can get it interpreted, then good, but you don't need to, because it's all been done. But these relays are sensitive to issues where you're not good enough. And if we're actually judging ourselves that way, if you look at ourselves in the mirror and we say, whoa, that's frightening, man, right? Then right, we can do a lot of damage to our own. We set ourselves up to be super sensitive to self-devaluation conflicts, and that causes wrinkles. Right, it causes all the body to become fibrous, the expression of fibrous tissue, right? In elasticity. The aches and pains, you said your knees, for example. Well, all of these structures are controlled by that part of the brain. So you don't want to have attitudes which kind of set that part of the brain off to be super sensitive.
Gotcha. Okay.
You want to do the opposite. You want to do the opposite. So it's
we're talking ourselves into it, aren't we?
So the best thing we can do is actually look our best, dress well, get a good haircut, look our best, so that when we look in the mirror, we're not slagging ourselves off, and also develop a practice of just being kinder to ourselves.
And feel great.
Be a cheerleader for ourselves.
Yeah, we also have to develop an attitude, a genuine attitude of being good enough. For being okay. Like either get rid of the judgment altogether if you can, or if not, try to cultivate an attitude of being good enough, of what's the word? I never get the words when I need them. Self-appreciation. So appreciate yourself from a positive vibe, and know that is helping you avoid or being sensitive to self-devaluation, which is a major cause of the getting old and speeding it up or slowing it down.
Yeah, well said. Sounds great. I mean, we're just talking ourselves into it, because the aging conversation is just in our face all the time anyway, isn't it?
Totally.
We don't, it's not like we've got an open road. There's a definite trajectory, as our culture would have us believe, right?
Yeah, totally. So, and the mainstream media and such, everyone looks so beautiful, and everyone's trying to look beautiful with some kind of surgery or something, it's just so ingrained into our society, and it's so self-defeating. And as well, right, one more thing, right, you have to have value. You see, if you've got no purpose, right?
Mm.
If you look at these indigenous people, where the tribes were, in China or Japan or wherever, where they live to great old age, 100 isn't even exceptionally old, and they all seem to be
Yeah.
well and good thinking,
Yeah.
right? It's because they live within what we're designed to live in, which is a pack. And a pack everyone has a purpose.
Well
There's,
said.
what are we now? When you get to the age of 65, well, you say, I'm going to have a great life. But by the time you're 80, they're trying to shove you into an old folks home or something, or that,
Bloody right.
and what use are you there? You're no use to anybody. So your body just, the relays are going bang, 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 and you're starting to cause all kinds of problems to yourself.
Oh, it's a downhill trajectory, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
it's
my mum was with COVID and with worrying about getting in an old folks home. She kept insisting that her doctor put "do not resuscitate" on all her medical notes. So even when she rings up the doctor's now, says, I am DNR, and the doctor says, I'm only ringing up about your bloody prescription. But then it's like they are obsessed, aren't they, with how useless they're becoming, and this is
Exactly.
a terrible situation.
Yeah. Exactly. It never used to be. I mean, I've thought some about this, and I studied the work of a dentist, a doctor of dentistry, who did a research from 1925 to about 1939, and he studied Dr. Weston Price. He studied.
Weston
he went
Price,
to
I love Western Price.
Yeah, and he found that all the people that lived in the little communities, in all these weird places that no one ever went to, right? They still lived as they'd lived for hundreds of years, and they all had perfect teeth, and they were all super healthy, and they're super beautiful people. Their physical selves were beautiful, they're perfect. Now he said, it's because you're eating fish oils and you're eating this and that and the rest, right? Fermented foods and stuff, right? But now that I understand German new medicine, I see a different story. I see that those communities, everybody was needed.
Yeah.
And everybody was beautiful, and they never had mainstream media tell them how ugly they are and how they've got to be like this, right? And that if you're, everybody was integral, and therefore they lived. So the old people were needed to look after the very young people, as the middle-aged people was out working. And if they weren't, there was problems. So they were needed, and therefore they were valued, and hence they lived 100 plus, regular.
And young people got to see what it was like to be old, didn't they, on a daily basis?
Exactly. And it was it was just a good way to live, And so I've tied up Weston Price with Dr. Hammer's work, and I see a real good correlation. It really ties in.
Amazing. Robert, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks. Great.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I've loved it. Yeah.
A sneaky little kind of question is, so if we start loving ourselves, Robert, right? Yeah, we should like come in, because this is actually top secret. If this works, this is amazing. If we start feeling good enough, you come in as well, Carl. You might need to hear this. If we start feeling good enough and start looking after ourselves, can we reverse the wrinkles?
Well, I would say, right, if we could stop them getting, I don't think you can reverse them, but you want to definitely stop them becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes, no secondaries.
Or a self-creating thing, right? Because the more you see them, the more you're going to see them, right? So therefore, the more you're going to see them, right? You know what I'm saying?
Laughter lines. Call them laughter lines, but of course,
that's right.
Nothing's that funny. Anyway, all the best, Robert. Thank you. Thank you so much, and hopefully we'll get you on again at some point. It'd be a real pleasure
great,
to do that.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. So it has.
All right. Well, lots of love to Sky, isn't it, that you're on?
No,
it's where he's.
I'm going to go on holiday. Yeah, I'm much further north.
Good luck going to Sky then. And you're gonna have your beekeeper's outfit on, are you, for the midges and everything, or is it the right time?
Midges are gone now. No, midges are dead now.
Good. Good. We'll have a
Nice
super
one.
time. Have a
Thank
great
you.
time.
You guys too. I'll see you
Fantastic to
again.
meet you. All right, all the
Yeah,
best. Ciao. Bye for now. See ya. There he goes. Look at that. Simon saying that was great. Very
Amazing.
interesting, Robert.
Yes, and if anyone wants to get in touch with Robert, I'm going to pop his email address in. Let me. I've already are you looking at your wrinkles, love? Sorry, are you looking at your smooth skin?
Yes, I
I
am.
have got his email address somewhere. And he's still listening in, actually. Robert, what's your email address?
He's just in time. He's just in time for a joke. Oh, he's gone. He's gone. You can't do that to people. Oh dear. I enjoyed that. Look, Don. This will add to the laughter lines. I enjoyed this, but you heard about the flasher and the two nuns. One had a stroke and the other couldn't reach. The old ones are the oldest, Don. What was their problem? I did really enjoy this presentation. The joke I now understand. Fantastic.
Right, hang on. I'm finding Robert's.
All right, while you're doing that, I'm just going to tell everybody about the growing old disgracefully. Seriously though, we are doing this on Monday. It kicks off. Oh, Robert's back now to do it for you, I think.
Hello.
Oh.
I was just asking you, what's your email address in case somebody wants to contact you?
info@robert-jardine.com.
Okie dokes. I'm going to type that in as well. Thank you so much. I'm sorry to drag you back on the screen. So it's, let me just.
I love
it. Cheers, Robert. I loved it how you were holding up your.
So it's info@robert-jardine.com.
Yeah. Have you learned how to do hyphens yet?
Yeah. Well, I could have actually typed out robert-jardine.com. But I was saying to Robert in one of the other shows that we've got like we don't have an English keyboard anymore. And yes, it's very confusing for me.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, that is hard work, isn't it?
Yeah. So there you go. There it is. There we go. There's Robert's email address.
Okay, well, here's what we're doing. You can check out as you wish, Robert, because we've got you now, I think, forever. But on Monday, this is gentle fitness for those that enjoy the finer things in life. So we're not getting all serious about it, and I think we'll probably be less focusing on the whole aging thing and more on having fun and staying strong. And actually, part of what Robert was saying, loving our bodies. Rather than writing them off or thinking that's the end now, it's like this is a wonderful thing that we're in. Let's make the most of it. So we've got Ian Turner. He coaches Dwayne Chambers at the moment. He's a part-time athletics coach. I think the rest of his time he's drinking and having fun, and that's how we're going to roll. And we're going to be doing module 1 next week, building up our stamina with walking. Then we'll up the pace a bit of cycling, running and swimming, maybe some sexual intercourse. I don't know. Module 2. Module 3, we'll focus on the arms, the shoulders, legs and core strength. And then nutrition in module. Maybe you have to leave it later. I don't know. Yeah. And then there will be running if we need to get out of trouble that we might have caused in the earlier modules in module 5. So that'll be it. Sign up now at Growing Old Disgracefully. I'll put in that link as well into the chat so that you can see that. But me and Jerry are going to be doing it, the course that is, and along with Ian and along with others who join. And Victoria Benson's agreed to be in it. And so, like I said before, it's Grey Watch, not Baywatch. And Ian is the Hoff, although he calls himself the Hoffmeister, follow the bear. And Vicky is our Pamela. And we're going to film ourselves, I suspect. I wanted it to be on the Silver Coast. It may well be in the Algarve, but I'm looking forward to that. So we're working ourselves into good shape for the video for when that happens. Were you adding something there, Mrs. M?
No. I was actually sending Robert a message to thank him for having, for just being a great person.
Good manners. And We'd give him a party bag if we could.
Yeah.
Hey, Carl, where do I start when it comes to moving to Portugal? Who do I contact? Well, John S. Are you going, Robert?
Well, no, I'm very interested in this because I might want to go
to
Portugal.
Oh, okay.
No,
You
why
stay where
not?
you are. Yes,
Yeah.
stay where you are.
Actually, while you guys are talking about your growing old disgracefully, I'm just going to put the kettle on and check on the kids.
Oh, what a lovely idea! Fantastic.
I would bring you one, Robert, but
John
obviously I
S.
can't.
and Robert J. We run a program now. We've got the program for helping people move to Portugal with a 12 key areas that we think are the areas to look at. And you can study that at your own pace, and you'll have your own buddy, Ask Our Expats buddy, who'll coach you. And we start off with a consultation with our immigration partners, EI. So we think it's a pretty good package, and you can book that up on that link there. I mean, or if not, you just stay tuned, just join the forum, just join the community and stay and watch the Good Morning Portugal show on a Monday morning. We'll help you as much as we can, but it'd be amazing to see you out here, maybe doing a bit of a workshop, Robert,
well,
and jumping into this a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I actually, some years ago, before this COVID seemed to kick in, I actually started to develop a course using what they call third generation hypnosis. It's kind of it puts it's kind of puts another angle on hypnosis, and it was using it along with other sort of other levels of consciousness and other internal assets that we've got to try and create deep internal changes. So you're not putting somebody into trance. Somebody kind of puts themselves into a higher level of awareness of themselves. And doing courses on that, I thought, I could just see so much fun and potential in doing that. But it's something that you can't do over the internet. It's something you sort of need to be in a place or have a workshop or something going where people, learn it, and the group kind of teaches each other to, helps each other to get into this higher state of awareness, where we solve our own problems. Because I mean, it was even Dr. Hammer said himself, you cannot solve anybody else's problem. It's their body or their psyche that solves their problem. You can help them. You're a guide, but you cannot be a doctor. And he was a doctor, but he says, no, it's the person heals himself always. And
I think all decent healers recognize that now, don't they?
Yeah, well, maybe so. Yeah.
Well, hopefully more and more. So what we're talking about there is a kind of a consciousness boosting retreat, basically, aren't we? Because
that I think that'd be so much fun. Yeah,
I agree, and I'm sure there are people here in this community who would love to be part of that. So let's work that up a bit and look at what's possible. I mean, a residential, you can't go wrong basing that in Portugal. Ideal setting. Probably the Algarve is where people would like to do that and just have a wonderful setting. Or there might be somebody watching who's got a retreat center who might want to host such an event. Because, the way you put it, it's like we're living in a bit of a dark age. And I actually think that's true in so many ways.
And the secret to overcoming conditions is to understand and to contact that hidden part of yourself, which is your psyche. Your psyche is your biological being, but we've got no conscious connection with it. But we've got to go, if we don't have a conscious connection, well, we've got to get some other way. And I see that this generative trance, as it's called, as a really high potential for doing that. And I would love to, I'd love to develop this. I mean, I know Louisa does hypnotherapy too. So I'll maybe speak more about that to her, because I did a lot of sort of thinking about that, and I even planned it all out and had lots of ideas sort of written down that would make a really fun workshop that was effective.
And I think what you said before is very pertinent. These are tools that we could benefit from knowing as a collective in society.
Yeah,
at school.
yeah,
because
absolutely,
clearly,
man.
clearly,
Totally.
there's a train the trainer aspect with this, isn't there? And it's a
Yeah.
great extra modality or awareness for therapists. But this is ideal in the hands of the people, isn't it? And it's revolutionary stuff.
Yeah, it definitely is. And in Britain, sort of nobody knows about it. But strangely enough, if you go to Eastern European countries, a lot of people understand Dr. Hammer's work. A lot of people. Yeah. It's well known. I've all the people that I've known that I've met in this country who've known about it already were from there.
Yeah. Well, I could open a can of worms now and ask you the question, why is it that, given that it's so powerful, it hasn't caught on, and why isn't all of modern medicine obsessed about it? But I think we know some of the answers to that, don't we?
Yeah,
and
we know the answers to that, yeah.
We're going to have to do it for ourselves and create
that's
a network
right,
for spreading the word. Take the time and the effort to share it with people. And it would be lovely to see you in Portugal to do that. So thanks again. And I think we finish around midnight. We'll be back again next Saturday night at 10 o'clock. And it just remains for me to thank you again, Robert, and wish you a very excellent holiday.
Hi, yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, well, it's been great, Carl. I'm really glad to have met you, and we'll see you again sometime.
All right, all the best, and bye for now. Ciao, ciao, everybody, and thank you for all your questions. Mrs. M's here with a tea now. Not with a different look. You've changed my filter now. I don't look like I'm in a photo booth anymore. Thanks everybody. It doesn't look like a hostage video anymore. Bye for now. See you everyone.
Good night.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Bueno.
Ciao, ciao.